The blade was already half drawn when I opened my mouth. I remember thinking that was an appropriate detail to notice before dying. The High Council Chamber of Orion was built to make humans feel small. The ceiling arched like the inside of a cathedral made from light itself, crystalline ribs glowing with Solaris gold. Representatives from a dozen Dominion houses shimmered along the circular tiers, their bioluminescent skin pulsing in subtle waves of superiority. And at the center of it all stood our delegation from Earth. We were supposed to sign. I wasn't supposed to speak. I'm Ryan Mitchell, junior linguistic attaché, third seat from the back, present only because I'd spent 15 years obsessively decoding Solaris transmissions long before first contact. I was brought here as a formality, a living dictionary, but when the final translation of the treaty hovered in the air between our peoples, something in the phrasing made my stomach drop. Esteemed Council, I heard myself say, my voice echoing farther than it had any right to. The term Valerian Taith does not mean cooperative resource exchange. A murmur rippled through the chamber. It means hereditary tribute. Silence. I forced myself to continue, even as armored Solaris sentinels shifted closer. If signed as written, Earth's outer colonies will not be trading mineral rights. We will be surrendering permanent extraction privileges. In perpetuity. I looked up then, at the gold-lit throne dais, at the unreadable faces of alien nobility. I had just accused the Dominion of deception in their own capital. And in that moment, as the first blade cleared its sheath, I knew I had done what should have gotten me killed. No one spoke for a long time after my accusation. Silence in the Solaris Dominion is not empty. It hums. The crystalline walls of the council chamber vibrated faintly, resonating with energy fields that powered the floating tiers. The noble's skin, luminous shades of amber, violet, and cold white, flickered in patterns I had spent years studying through stolen transmissions. Shock, offense, calculation. My heart pounded so violently I was certain the nearest sentinel could hear it through my ribs. You claim, a voice rang out from above, smooth and edged like polished glass, that the Dominion has attempted to bind Earth to tributary status through linguistic manipulation. The speaker stood near the starborn throne, tall, radiant, clad in layered robes that shimmered like molten sunlight. I knew her face from public transmissions, though she rarely spoke during negotiations. Princess Elena Hayes, fourth daughter of the starborn throne, politically peripheral, ceremonially present, frequently overlooked, and at that moment, looking directly at me. I claim, I said carefully, forcing my voice steady, that the High Solaris dialect has been rendered inaccurately. Whether by error or intention, I cannot say. A dangerous answer. Gasps rippled through the human delegation behind me. I could practically feel Ambassador Quan trying to will me into silence. The princess descended 2 steps from the dais. You are the human linguist, she said, not as a question. Yes, Your Highness. You were not authorized to speak. No, Your Highness. Her eyes, bright, almost metallic, studied me in a way that was not contempt. Not exactly. It was worse. Interest. How, she asked, does a species that only joined the interstellar community 9 years ago presume to challenge the Dominion's legal scholars? This was the moment I should have apologized. Instead, I told the truth. I have studied your language for 15 years. The chamber stirred again. 15, she repeated. Before contact, I added. That landed. Her glow shifted subtly, from imperial gold to something cooler, sharper. Before contact, she said slowly, your people had no confirmed evidence we existed. We had evidence, I said. We just didn't have proof. A sentinel's blade lifted slightly at that, a reminder that I was balancing on the edge of execution. And you studied our speech, why? She pressed. Because I was a coward. Because alien verbs were easier than hospital rooms. Because parsing syntax felt safer than watching someone you love disappear. But I couldn't say that here. Curiosity, I answered instead. A faint sound moved through the chamber. Not laughter, not approval. Intrigue. The princess turned slightly, addressing the council without breaking eye contact with me. Retrieve the original codex entry for Valerian Taith. A translucent legal archive flickered into existence in the air beside her. Lines of ancient Solaris script unfolded like ribbons of light. She read silently. The chamber waited. The Empress herself, seated high upon the starborn throne, had not moved. but I felt the weight of her attention now, crushing and immense. After several long seconds, Princess Elena's glow dimmed to a thoughtful silver. "The human is correct," she said calmly. The effect was explosive. Several nobles flared bright crimson, anger. One surged forward, objecting in rapid high Solaris. Another demanded review of the translation matrix. Human delegates stared at me like I had just detonated a bomb beneath our diplomatic mission. The princess raised one hand. Silence fell again. "The submitted translation omits the hereditary binding clause," she continued. "If signed in this form, Earth would enter a state of generational tribute under Dominion oversight." The words were clinical, but the meaning was catastrophic. Ambassador Quan went pale. Across the chamber, a senior Solaris chancellor's glow flickered violently, a color I recognized from entertainment transmissions as defensive aggression. The princess turned to him. "Chancellor Varos," she said softly, "would you care to explain how such an omission occurred?" He hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. The Dominion had not expected anyone from Earth to truly understand high Solaris legal nuance. Certainly not a junior attaché from Chicago. The Empress finally spoke. Her voice carried not through air, but through the structure itself. "This treaty will be suspended pending review." The crystalline chamber dimmed in acknowledgement. My knees nearly gave out from relief. Suspended. Not executed. Not imprisoned. Suspended. But suspension did not mean forgiveness. The Empress's gaze shifted downward. "To speak without invitation in this chamber," she said, "is punishable by immediate sanction." There it was. I bowed deeply. "I accept whatever consequence your radiance deems appropriate." The princess looked at me again. Her glow, faint, steady silver, pulsed once. "Perhaps," she said carefully, "consequence should be proportional to impact." The Empress did not respond immediately. I realized something then. Elena Hayes was not defending me. She was evaluating me. After several heartbeats, the Empress spoke again. "The human linguist will not be sanctioned." Air rushed back into my lungs. "Instead," she continued, "he will remain on Orion for further consultation." That felt less like mercy and more like containment. My execution had been postponed, not canceled. As the chamber dissolved into procedural chaos and delegates began reorganizing around the suspended treaty, Princess Elena descended fully from the dais and stopped before me. Up close, her luminescence was warmer than it appeared from afar. "Not gold. Not quite. You studied our language from unauthorized transmissions," she said quietly, so only I could hear. "Yes. Cultural dramas. Philosophical debates. Political satire." My pulse skipped. She knew. "Yes, Your Highness." Her lips curved slightly, not quite a smile. "Intercepted comedy programs are not typically considered valid linguistic sources. They're excellent for slang." I replied before I could stop myself. A dangerous thing happened then. She almost laughed. The flicker of light across her skin shifted into something softer. "You will report to the Sky Gardens tomorrow at midday," she said. That was not a request. "For what purpose?" I asked. "To satisfy my curiosity," she replied. "About my linguistic process, I assumed. Or about the audacity of a human who dared challenge the Dominion in its own capital." As she turned to leave, she added, almost as an afterthought, "And Mr. Mitchell?" "Yes, Princess. If you are wrong about anything else, I will not intervene a second time." The implication was clear. Today, I had survived. Tomorrow, I would be tested. And as the council chamber emptied and the weight of what I had done settled fully into my bones, I realized something far more dangerous than the Sentinel's blades. Princess Elena Hayes had not looked at me with contempt. She had looked at me like a puzzle. And puzzles, in the Solaris Dominion, were never left unsolved. If you've watched this far, then this story is really interesting to you. Please confirm it by clicking like under this video. It doesn't cost you anything, but it will help me understand what story to publish for you next. Write in the comments who the alien woman in this story looks like, and who you would like to see in the next one. Let's move on. The Sky Gardens of Kael'rith were not built for creatures like me. They floated above the capital city like a suspended fragment of another world. Terraces of living crystal and bioluminescent flora woven into platforms of transparent stone. From the edge, you could see the entire city below, spiraled towers of light, energy bridges arcing between structures, air traffic streams flowing in ordered patterns through the golden atmosphere. It was designed to remind visitors of scale, of hierarchy, of how small you were. I arrived precisely at midday, escorted by 2 silent sentinels who left me at the threshold of an arched gateway that shimmered faintly with defensive energy. She was already there. Princess Elena Hayes stood near a reflecting pool whose surface was so still it looked solid. The water mirrored the sky in perfect symmetry, turning the world upside down beneath her feet. Her robes today were simpler than in the council chamber. Layered silver fabric threaded with faint strands of crimson light that pulsed softly with her movements. "You are punctual," she said without turning. I was advised that tardiness might be hazardous. That earned the faintest shift in her glow. Amusement. "You speak carefully," she observed. "I'm trying to continue living." Now she turned. Up close, her eyes were even more unsettling. Not because they were alien, but because they were perceptive. Deep amber, almost molten, but steady. Evaluating. "You embarrassed members of the High Council," she said. "You corrected a legal nuance most of my own scholars overlooked." I didn't mean to embarrass anyone. That was not my concern. She stepped closer to the pool, motioning for me to follow. "I am interested," she continued, "in the mechanism. Of the translation error?" "No." She faced me fully now. "Of you." There was no accusation in it. Only curiosity. "You claim 15 years of study," she said. "From intercepted transmissions. Explain." So I did. I told her about the early days, when deep space observatories began capturing structured signal anomalies. When conspiracy forums were the only places anyone talked seriously about alien syntax patterns. When I was still married, still teaching comparative linguistics at Northwestern, still pretending my obsession was academic curiosity rather than escape. "I mapped tonal variants first," I said. "Your language is emotionally indexed. Even formal dialect shifts in resonance when the speaker experiences heightened internal states." Her glow flickered faintly. "You recognized emotional coding without direct exposure?" "Yes." "How?" I hesitated. "Because humans do it too. Just less elegantly." She circled slowly, studying me the way one might examine an unfamiliar instrument. "You watched our political debates?" "Yes." "Our dramatic serials?" "Yes." "Our satire channels?" I winced slightly. Those were the most educational. That earned a visible pulse of light across her skin. "You learned high Solaris slang from underground comedy?" "Yes." "Why?" There it was. The question beneath the question. Why invest 15 years in a language you might never use? Why choose alien phonetics over human connection? I could have lied. Instead, for reasons I still don't fully understand, I told her the truth. My wife was dying. The wind shifted through the gardens, carrying the scent of something floral and metallic. Elena did not interrupt. "Cancer," I continued. 3-year prognosis. Aggressive. Unpredictable. I kept my eyes on the surface of the pool. I visited every day. I sat beside her hospital bed. I learned how to read medication charts. I memorized the rhythms of the machines. My throat tightened, but I forced the words out. But when she slept, I put on headphones. Silence. I told myself I was preparing for something historic. First contact. Linguistic advantage. Academic contribution. I laughed softly. In reality, I was memorizing verb conjugations, so I didn't have to memorize the sound of her breathing getting weaker. The pool rippled faintly, though there was no wind. Elena's glow dimmed to a soft, almost colorless white. "You abandoned her," she said. "It wasn't cruel. It was observational." "Yes," I said. "I was physically present, but I wasn't there." "Did she know?" "Yes." "And she forgave me." I swallowed. I haven't forgiven myself. The gardens felt impossibly quiet. After a long moment, Elena moved closer to the pool's edge. "When my father was assassinated," she said, "I was 16 cycles old." I looked up. This was not information commonly broadcast. "There were rumors," I said carefully. "There were lies," she corrected. Her glow shifted, not gold, not silver. A deep, muted violet. Certain houses were consolidating power. My father was resistant to their methods. "You knew?" She nodded once. I overheard fragments. Warnings disguised as strategy discussions. "And you said nothing?" I said nothing. The admission hung between us like exposed circuitry. I told myself I had misunderstood, that it was not my place, that the High Council would intervene. Her voice did not waver. I was wrong. The reflecting pool flickered faintly as sunlight refracted across its surface. He died, she continued, and I realized that silence can be more lethal than treason. I understood then. This wasn't just curiosity. This was recognition. You spoke in the council chamber, she said. Without invitation. Without rank. Without guarantee of survival. Yes. Why? I exhaled slowly. Because I was tired of watching something collapse while pretending I didn't see it. Her glow brightened slightly. You risked your life for your species. I risked my life because I was done being a coward. That surprised her. The faintest flare of silver across her skin. Most beings who challenge authority do so from pride, she said. I did it from regret. She stepped closer, closer than protocol allowed. You believe correcting a treaty clause compensates for abandoning your mate? No. Then why act at all? Because maybe I can't fix the past, I said quietly. But I can stop repeating it. The air between us felt charged. Not electrically. Something else. Understanding. You are aware, she said carefully, that by intervening in the treaty, you have created political instability within the Dominion. I assumed as much. Several houses will interpret your correction as intentional humiliation. I didn't intend humiliation. Intent rarely matters. Her gaze softened slightly. You fascinate me, Ryan Mitchell. That was the first time she had used my name without title. Because I studied your language? No. She stepped back toward the reflecting pool. Because you admitted weakness. I blinked. In the Dominion, she continued, weakness is concealed, especially within the celestial line. Her glow shifted faintly again, something almost gray beneath the gold. I have never heard anyone confess guilt so plainly. Does it disgust you? No. She paused. It unsettles me. Why? Because I understand it. That was the moment something shifted. Not politically, personally. We were no longer princess and linguist. We were two beings who had failed someone they loved. And that recognition was infinitely more dangerous than anything I had said in the council chamber. She turned slightly, looking out over the floating city below. You will return tomorrow, she said. Is that an order? It is an opportunity. For what? For us to determine whether your survival was accident or inevitability. I should have felt relief leaving the gardens that day. Instead, I felt something far more unsettling. For the first time since my wife died, I had spoken about her without hiding behind irony or deflection. And the only person who had truly heard me was an alien princess whose silence had once cost her father his life. As I descended back toward the city, I realized something dangerous. I hadn't come to the Sky Gardens to justify my actions. I had come to confess. And Princess Elena Hayes had listened. Which meant this was no longer just about a treaty. It was about what happens when two people who have lived inside regret decide, cautiously, to step out of it. The invitation to the Eclipse Ball arrived without ceremony. No embossed seal. No formal envoy. Just a thin strip of light that unfolded in my quarters and projected a single line of High Solaris text. Asterisk attendance required. Formal designation prepared. Asterisk. I read it 3 times. Formal designation. That wasn't standard diplomatic language. The human delegation had not been invited to the Eclipse Ball. It was an internal Dominion event, a convergence of noble houses timed to Orion's dual moon alignment. Alliances were displayed there. Rivalries were measured. Futures were decided. Humans were observers in the Dominion. We were not displayed. When the escort arrived at sunset, they brought clothing. Not a suit. Not diplomatic attire. Robes. Deep crimson layered over silver thread, edged with geometric sigils that shimmered faintly when touched by light. I stared at them. There must be some mistake, I said. There is no mistake, the sentinel replied. I dressed slowly. The fabric was heavier than it looked, settling across my shoulders with unsettling precision, as though it had been tailored to my exact proportions. Which meant it had been. That thought alone sent a pulse of unease through me. When I was escorted into the Great Hall of Kael'rith, the scale of it nearly stopped me mid-step. The ceiling arched open to the night sky, where Orion's twin moons aligned in perfect eclipse, casting a halo of silver fire across the chamber. Thousands of Solaris nobles filled the ascending terraces, their bioluminescent skin creating waves of shifting color that merged into a living aurora. And at the center of it all stood Princess Elena Hayes. Tonight she did not look overlooked. Her robes were layered in luminous white and burnished gold, cascading down like light given form. Silver strands threaded through her hair, catching the eclipse glow. When she saw me, her expression did not change, but her glow did. It brightened. Not gold, not silver, something warmer. "You came," she said as I approached. "You summoned. I invited. That was new. I am aware this event is not typically open to foreign delegates," I said carefully. "You are not here as a delegate." The statement settled heavily. "Then what am I here as?" She stepped closer, close enough that I could see the subtle pulse of energy beneath her skin. "My chosen guest." Before I could process that, the music shifted. Low harmonic frequencies vibrated through the hall, a signal of formal recognition. Every noble in the chamber turned toward us. Elena lifted one hand. From the edge of the hall, 2 attendants approached carrying a narrow vessel of liquid light. I felt every gaze in the Dominion settle on me. "Elena," I said quietly, "what is happening?" Her voice dropped to something almost intimate. "You corrected the treaty. You exposed corruption within the council. Several houses now view you as a destabilizing variable. That's reassuring. It is not meant to be." The attendant stopped before us. Elena dipped her fingers into the luminous substance. Silver, crimson, interwoven. She reached toward me. I did not step back. When her fingers touched my collar, warmth spread outward across the fabric. The sigils lining my robes ignited softly, silver veins threading through the crimson. Gasps rippled through the hall. "Elena," I said under my breath, "what does this signify?" Her eyes did not leave mine. Intent. The word felt too small. Intent for what? The Empress watched from the elevated throne platform, her glow unreadable. "Elena," I tried again, "this is not a diplomatic gesture, is it?" "No." She drew her hand back, and the sigils stabilized into a steady glow. Under ancient Dominion law, silver and crimson markings on formal attire signified preliminary sovereign bond. Not marriage. Not yet. But declaration. A public indication that a member of the celestial line had chosen someone as potential equal partner. The realization hit me like a gravitational shift. "You didn't tell me," I whispered. "If I had," she said quietly, "would you have agreed to wear it?" I didn't answer. Because she was right. The hall erupted into whispers. Colors flared violently across noble skin. Outrage, disbelief, fascination. A human. Marked. At the eclipse ball, Lord Varos, the same chancellor implicated in the treaty mistranslation, stepped forward from the second tier. "Princess," he called, his glow flaring sharp red. "Explain this unprecedented display." Elena did not turn. "There is nothing to explain. You elevate a foreigner above Dominion bloodlines?" "I elevate no one," she replied evenly. "I signal consideration. That human embarrassed this council. That human prevented internal corruption." The tension in the hall thickened. "You jeopardize succession," Varos pressed. "You are fourth in descent, yet such declarations affect perception of stability. Then perhaps stability requires redefinition." The audacity of that statement rippled outward. I leaned slightly closer to her. "Elena," I murmured, "this is dangerous." "Yes." "You could lose standing." "Yes." "Why?" For a moment, the political mask slipped. Just slightly. "Because," she said quietly, "I am tired of being strategically irrelevant." That hit harder than I expected. The fourth daughter. Politically ornamental. Assigned minor diplomatic oversight because it was considered low risk. By marking me tonight, she was no longer irrelevant. She was controversial. The music resumed, strained and uneven. Whispers sharpened into speculation. I heard fragments in High Solaris. Asterisk impulsive. Asterisk. Asterisk emotional. Asterisk. Asterisk desperate. Asterisk. Asterisk human influence. Asterisk. "Elena," I said softly, "this will not be forgotten. I do not require it to be." The Empress finally rose from her throne. The hall fell silent instantly. Her glow was immense, deep gold edged with white authority. "Daughter," she said, voice resonating through crystal and bone alike, "you have made an interesting display." "I have made an honest one," Elena replied. A pause. Long. Measured. "And this human understands the implications?" the Empress asked. Elena did not look at me. "He understands enough." That was not entirely true. I understood the symbolism. I did not understand the cost. The Empress's gaze settled on me. Ryan Mitchell of Earth, she said. Do you comprehend that tonight you stand within Dominion lineage politics? Yes, I said. Do you comprehend that such markings invite challenge? There it was. Challenge. Not metaphorical. Legal. Yes. A lie. But I said it anyway. The Empress studied me for a long, silent moment. Then she inclined her head. The eclipse proceeds. Music swelled again, but the tone had shifted. This was no longer celebration. It was provocation. As the nobles resumed movement and conversation, the space around us remained subtly isolated. I leaned closer to Elena. You've put a target on my back. Yes. And on yours. Yes. Was this planned? She met my eyes steadily. I knew what it would trigger, which is truth. The word echoed strangely in my chest. You could have waited, I said. For what? For a safer moment. Her glow sharpened. Safety has never preserved anything worth having. Across the hall, I noticed movement, a tall figure clad in dark ceremonial armor, watching us with unmasked hostility. General Mason Caldwell, Dominion warlord, bloodline purist. His gaze did not leave mine. Elena, I said quietly, I think you just made someone very angry. I am aware. And if they challenge? She did not hesitate. Then we will see whether you are as courageous as you were in the council chamber. The words were calm, but beneath them, I sensed something else. Hope, or maybe fear. As the eclipse reached its peak and silver light flooded the great hall, I realized something irreversible had just happened. I had not signed a treaty. I had not pledged allegiance. But in front of the entire Solaris Dominion, I had been marked. And whether I was ready or not, I was now part of something far older and far more volatile than interstellar diplomacy. Whispers continued to spread. A human, chosen, or nearly. And in the Dominion, nothing ignites conflict faster than someone stepping above their designated station. The eclipse ball did not end in applause. It ended in silence thick enough to taste. And somewhere in that silence, I felt the first tremor of a coming challenge. The challenge came before the music finished its final harmonic descent. I saw it in General Mason Caldwell's eyes long before he spoke. He did not look like the other nobles. Where their attire shimmered and flowed, his was angular, dark metallic armor etched with ancestral sigils, each line glowing faintly red like contained embers. He stood rigid, tall, deliberate, a warlord carved into ceremonial form, and he was watching me as though I were already dead. The murmurs in the great hall had not yet settled when he stepped forward from the second tier and descended toward the central floor. The crowd parted instinctively. Solaris nobility did not make space for many beings, but they made space for him. Elena Hayes, he said, voice resonating through the chamber without amplification. Daughter of the Starborn throne, you have committed an act that demands clarification. Elena did not step back. You may clarify it for yourself, General, she replied evenly. His gaze flicked to me. Is this creature under your sovereign claim? Creature. There it was. Yes, Elena said. The word was not loud, but it echoed. A ripple of shock passed through the tears. Colors flared violently across Solaris' skin. Indignation, disbelief, outrage. General Caldwell's jaw tightened. You understand, he said slowly, that such a declaration violates bloodline expectation. It violates expectation, Elena corrected. Not law. That remains to be determined. He turned fully toward me. You, he said, stand within celestial line designation without rank, without heritage, without genetic compatibility. I'm aware of my resume, I replied. Several nobles gasped at my tone. Caldwell's eyes narrowed. You mock your position? No, I said. I understand it. That unsettled him more than defiance would have. In the Dominion, he continued, purity of descent ensures continuity of power. In my world, I said quietly, purity arguments rarely end well. A dangerous statement. Elena shifted slightly closer to me. General, she said, if you have an objection, state it formally. He did not hesitate. I invoked the right of correction. The hall went silent. Even I felt the shift. The right of correction was not ceremonial. It was ancient, pre-imperial. A legal mechanism allowing a member of recognized lineage to challenge an outsider whose presence was deemed dishonoring. Combat. To the death. I felt the weight of it settle into my bones. Elena, I murmured, This is what your mother meant by challenge. Yes, she said quietly. General Caldwell extended his hand outward, palm open. I challenge the human Ryan Mitchell, he declared, to ritual combat under Dominion law. Let him defend his unearned elevation. Let blood determine worth. The words hung like gravity. Several nobles flared bright crimson in approval. Others dimmed uneasily. The Empress had not yet moved. Elena Hayes, Caldwell continued. You may withdraw your claim and spare him. The offer was not mercy. It was strategy. Withdraw the marking. Restore hierarchy. End the disruption. Elena's glow pulsed silver. I will not withdraw. Caldwell nodded once. As expected, he turned back to me. Do you accept? The question felt surreal. A few weeks ago, I was grading linguistic essays in Chicago. Now I stood in the center of an alien empire, being asked whether I would fight a genetically engineered warlord to defend a symbolic bond. Every rational survival instinct screamed at me to decline, to step aside, to let political reality reassert itself. But I saw something in Elena's expression then. Not expectation. Fear. Not for herself. For me. If I refused, Caldwell would not need to kill me. He would simply reduce me. Expose weakness. Use it as proof that humans were ornamental. Temporary. Unworthy. If I accepted, I would almost certainly die. But I would die on my feet. And maybe that mattered. I inhaled slowly. I accept. The words felt oddly calm leaving my mouth. The hall erupted. Shouts. Flashes of color. Waves of outrage and exhilaration. Elena turned sharply toward me. Ryan, she whispered, you do not understand. I understand enough. He has trained for combat since early descent. I assumed as much. You cannot win. Probably not. Her glow flickered violently. Then why? Because I already failed once. Because I watched someone I loved fade and did nothing but hide. Because I am tired of surviving by silence. I didn't say any of that. Instead I said, because I will not let him reduce you to a mistake. Her breath caught. Caldwell's expression shifted, satisfaction. Dawn, he declared. The challenge arena. Traditional blades. No augmentation. Witnessed by all houses. He turned toward the Empress. Do you contest? The Empress rose slowly. Her glow was unreadable, a controlled storm. The right is lawful, she said. Elena stiffened beside me. But, the Empress continued, its invocation carries consequence. Caldwell inclined his head slightly. I am prepared. He wasn't just challenging me. He was challenging Elena's legitimacy. Her judgment. Her future. The Empress's gaze settled on me. Ryan Mitchell, she said, voice resonating like distant thunder. You may withdraw. It wasn't mercy. It was an opening. I met her gaze. I won't. A pause. Then the faintest narrowing of her eyes. So be it. The music did not resume. The eclipse ball dissolved into fragmented clusters of speculation. Nobles whispered in sharp tones. House banners flickered with internal signaling. Caldwell left without looking back. His confidence radiated like heat. Elena did not move for several seconds after the hall began to clear. You should not have accepted, she said finally. Would you have withdrawn your marking? No. Then it was already inevitable. Her glow dimmed to something pale and uncertain. I did not intend for this to escalate so quickly. I think he was waiting, I said. For what? For you to choose something. She looked at me sharply. You believe this was premeditated? I believe power structures rarely tolerate disruption. She was quiet. You are going to die, she said softly. Probably. That is not acceptable. I almost smiled. It's not ideal. She stepped closer. If you die in that arena, it will validate every argument against human inclusion. And if I refuse, it will validate every argument against human strength. Then I choose the option where at least I stand. She stared at me, something fierce igniting beneath her composure. I did not mark you to sacrifice you. You marked me to stop being irrelevant. That landed. Her glow flickered sharply. And you? She asked. Maybe I'm done being irrelevant too. The hall was nearly empty now. Only scattered nobles remained, watching from a distance. Elena, I said quietly, if I die tomorrow, do not finish that sentence. I need to say it. She clenched her hands at her sides. If I die, do not let it be used to weaken you. I will not need instruction, she said coldly. I nodded. Good. The sentinels approached to escort me back to my quarters. As I turned to leave, Elena caught my arm. Her touch was warm. Electric. You do not understand Solaris combat, she said quietly. It is not brute force. It is pattern recognition, rhythm, timing. Can you teach me in one night? A faint, strained pulse of light crossed her skin. No. Then what can you teach me? She hesitated. Where he is weakest. I looked at her. You're going to help me? Yes. You realize that might be considered interference. Let them consider. For the first time since the challenge was issued, I felt something shift from dread to possibility. Not because I believed I could win, but because I would not be alone. As we walked from the great hall beneath the fading eclipse light, I understood something clearly. I had done what should have gotten me killed once already in the council chamber. Tomorrow, I would do it again. Only this time, there would be no words to hide behind. Just steel, and choice, and the terrifying realization that sometimes survival isn't the point. Sometimes standing is. Dawn on Orion does not rise gently. It fractures the horizon. The challenge arena stood at the heart of Caelrith like a relic from a more brutal age. A circular coliseum carved from living crystal, its walls etched with Dominion victories spanning millennia. Every major conflict, every bloodline correction, every sanctioned execution was recorded here in luminous script. Today, my name would be added, one way or another. The stands were already full when I entered through the eastern gate. Solaris nobles filled the ascending tiers, their skin glowing in controlled anticipation. A low harmonic hum vibrated through the arena's structure, ceremonial resonance amplifiers activating to capture every sound. No one wanted to miss my death. General Mason Caldwell stood at the center of the arena floor, blade already in hand. He wore no ceremonial armor now, only fitted combat attire that exposed the musculature beneath his luminescent skin. His glow burned deep red, predatory. I stepped onto the arena floor in simple training garments. No sigils, no elevation markings, just a human. The Empress occupied the central viewing dais above, flanked by her daughters. Elena stood to her right. She did not glow gold today. She glowed white. Still, waiting. An official voice resonated through the arena. Right of correction, invoked by General Mason Caldwell against Ryan Mitchell of Earth. Combat to the cessation of one participant. Traditional blades only. No augmentation. A sentinel approached me, placing the weapon in my hand. It was perfectly balanced, and entirely insufficient. Caldwell rolled his shoulders once, measuring distance. You may withdraw, he said quietly, just loud enough for me to hear. Declare yourself unworthy. The princess rescinds her claim. You leave alive. Is that mercy? I asked. It is efficiency. And if I decline, you die? Fair. The official's voice rose again. Combatants may speak final words. The arena quieted. This was tradition. Statements of honor. Declarations of loyalty. Threats. Caldwell lifted his blade slightly. I correct imbalance, he said simply. His glow flared in approval from several noble tears. Then all eyes turned to me. My heart hammered violently. My palms were damp against the hilt. I could attempt strategy, boast, appeal. Instead, I did the one thing no one expected. I lowered my blade and stepped back. A ripple of confusion moved through the stands. Caldwell frowned. Have you already surrendered? No, I said. I turned, not to him, but toward the dais. Toward Elena. My voice carried farther than it should have. Elena Hayes. A visible shock passed through the arena. One does not address Celestial Line by name in combat ceremony. What would happen, I asked clearly, if I kissed the princess? The world stopped. Silence detonated across the arena. Caldwell's glow snapped from red to blackened fury. What madness is this? He snarled. The nobles erupted in furious whispers. The Empress rose halfway from her throne. Elena did not move, but her glow changed. From white to silver, then something deeper, older. You dare, Caldwell began. But Elena stepped forward on the dais. If he kissed me, she said, her voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. The first covenant would be invoked. The arena went completely still. Caldwell's confidence flickered for the first time. The first covenant is obsolete, he snapped. It is dormant, Elena corrected. Not repealed. The Empress slowly stood fully now. Her glow ignited gold-edged with violet authority. Under the first covenant, she said, voice resonating through every crystalline surface. A declared bond between sovereign line and chosen equal nullifies right of correction. Shock rippled through the stands. Caldwell's eyes widened. That law predates the purity edicts, he protested. It predates the Dominion itself, the Empress replied. I felt the weight of thousands of eyes shift from Caldwell to me. The ancient covenant. I hadn't known the specifics, but I had guessed something existed. Solaris legal structures were layered. Nothing truly vanished. Elena stepped down from the dais. Each step deliberate, measured. If he kisses me, she said, stopping at the arena edge, he is no longer outsider. Caldwell's blade trembled slightly. You manipulate ceremony, he hissed. You invoked it, Elena replied calmly. The Empress turned her gaze to Caldwell. General, did you review the full Rite Codex before invoking correction? A pause. Just long enough. Answer, she commanded. No. There it was. The arrogance. He assumed no one would challenge. No one would know the old law. But I had spent 15 years studying Solaris language, and Elena had grown up within its history. I stepped closer to her. The arena felt suspended between centuries. If I do this, I said quietly, only she could hear, there is no reversal. I know. You will be permanently bound. Yes. You could lose succession entirely. Her gaze held mine. I am willing. Caldwell raised his blade again. This is trickery. He cannot bypass combat with sentiment. This is law, the Empress thundered. And you invoked it. The arena's energy shifted, no longer bloodlust. Now something else. Witness. I stood at the edge of the arena, looking up at Elena. Everything narrowed. The stance. The politics. The fear. All of it blurred. I asked what would happen, I said softly. Her glow intensified. Not gold, not silver. Something new. If you kiss me, she said, loud enough for all to hear, you claim equal standing under the first covenant. And if I don't, you die? Clear. Simple. Ancient. I exhaled. I did what should have gotten me killed once already, I said quietly. She almost smiled. And something extraordinary happened. The Empress watched without interruption. Caldwell realized, too late, that the battlefield had shifted. Not steel against steel, but law against arrogance. I stepped fully forward, into reach, and in front of the entire Solaris Dominion. I closed the distance. For a fraction of a second, there was only breath between us. The arena, the nobles, the Empress, the warlord who had come to watch me die, all of it faded into a distant hum. Elena's glow pulsed in that unfamiliar color again, something that did not belong to gold authority or silver restraint. Choice. I lifted my hand slowly, giving her time to step back. She didn't. Her fingers curled lightly into the fabric at my collar, the same place she had marked me at the eclipse ball. If you do this, she whispered, barely audible, everything changes. I know, and you cannot undo it. I'm done undoing things. That earned the smallest breath of a laugh. Then I kissed her. Her skin was warmer than human skin, charged with a subtle bioelectric field that sent a sharp, bright current through my nerves. It wasn't painful, it was clarifying, like stepping into cold water and realizing you're still alive. For one impossible heartbeat, there was silence. Then the arena reacted, not with outrage, not with chaos, with resonance. The crystalline walls ignited in cascading lines of ancient script, dormant sigils flaring awake as if remembering something long buried. Light rippled outward from the point where we stood, circling the arena floor in widening rings. Above us, the Empress extended her hand. The first covenant is witnessed, she declared, her voice amplified by the structure itself. Bond acknowledged. Right of correction nullified. Gasps turned into stunned quiet. General Caldwell lowered his blade slowly, disbelief replacing fury. The red of his glow fractured into unstable flickers. You cannot, he began. I can, the Empress cut him off. You invoked ancient law? You are bound by it. Elena stepped back just enough to look at me fully. Her glow stabilized into that new color, steady, radiant, undeniable. Under the covenant, she said clearly for all to hear, Ryan Mitchell of Earth stands as my chosen equal. Any challenge against him is a challenge against the celestial line itself. The political implications detonated silently across the tiers. What was meant to be my execution had become something else entirely. Not rebellion. Recognition. The Empress's gaze swept the arena. Furthermore, she continued, The right's improper invocation and failure to consult full codex review constitutes procedural negligence. That was diplomatic language, but everyone understood. Caldwell had overreached. Guards moved, not toward me, toward him. His glow flared once more in desperate defiance, then dimmed as sentinels encircled him. "This is manipulation," he spat. "This," the Empress replied coldly, "is consequence." The arena did not cheer. Solaris nobility did not celebrate unpredictability. But something shifted. A recalibration. For generations, the Dominion had equated bloodline with worth. Now, before their eyes, an ancient law older than their purity edicts had reasserted itself. Equal bond, not descent. Choice. Elena's hand slipped into mine. Her grip was firm. "Real. You survived," she said quietly. "I think you did more than that." She looked up at the tears, then back at me. We both did. I glanced toward the Empress. She was watching us not with anger, but with something that might have been reluctant approval. "You realize," I murmured to Elena, "I didn't exactly plan this." "You asked the correct question," she replied. "And if you had answered differently?" Her glow warmed slightly. "I wouldn't have." Around us, the arena slowly began to settle. Nobles whispered in lower tones now, not outrage, but calculation. Realignment. Possibility. The First Covenant had not just saved my life. It had rewritten precedent. Humanity was no longer a negotiating partner position below Dominion hierarchy. We were now bonded to it at the highest visible level. Not through conquest, not through tribute, but through choice. I had done what should have gotten me killed. I had challenged a warlord in his own arena. I had kissed a princess in front of an empire that believed itself untouchable. And instead of dying, something extraordinary had happened. Elena stepped closer again, her voice softer now that the political shockwave had begun to settle. "So," she said lightly, "what happens next, Ryan Mitchell of Earth?" I looked around the arena, at the awakened sigils, at the nobles adjusting to a new reality, at the Empress who had allowed ancient law to surface rather than suppress it. "Next," I said, squeezing her hand gently, "we figure out what equal actually means." Her smile this time wasn't subtle. It was bright. Above us, dawn light spilled fully over the arena's rim, mixing with the fading glow of ancient script until natural light and Solaris luminescence were indistinguishable. For the first time since stepping onto Orion, I didn't feel small. Not because I had won, but because I had chosen. And this time, I hadn't looked away. Thank you for listening to this story to the end. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Write in the comments what moment in this story impressed you the most. And also check out the other videos that just appeared on your screen. See you in the next video.